Morning friends, it's Heather at Bush Poppy Farm. I hope you are doing well. It's a warm and sunny day and dry, and that's important because today we're going to be trying to get a hold of the fungal diseases that we first encountered this past spring. So in the spring of 2024, for the first time ever in this garden, I had a lot of fungal diseases. We got early blight on our potatoes, peach leaf curl, rust on our garlic, and fungal disease on our blackberries, which all of those things limited the production of those plants quite a bit. In fact, the garlic we had to harvest a little early. I'm going to try to mitigate that this year. Up to this point, I haven't had to use any kind of fungicide in the garden, but once it's there, once your fungal spores are in the garden, they're always going to be there. So it's really about beating them back a bit. And so that's what we're going to tackle today. And what I'm using is a copper fungicide. This happens to be the brand that we have here, but any other brand that makes a copper fungicide will work. Now, copper, as you know, is an element. It's a metal. It's also poisonous. So this is not something that you want to do around pets. You want it to be a dry for days time period with no wind. We have a very light breeze right now, but when I say light, I mean very light. That's for a couple reasons. One, I don't want this to float into my chicken coop. I don't want it to float near my beehives. I don't want to inhale it. So, you have to be careful. It is very safe to use on your plants. And the reason is the plants will take it up. It will kill the fungal spores that are on the surfaces of the plants and get into those buds. So that's what we're going to be focusing on today. Now, it's probably too early for you in your area to go ahead and spray fungicide. When you do this, generally the idea is to do it in the fall. After all the leaves have dropped, you give it an application. And again, making sure that you're not going to have rain over the next couple of days because you really want this to dry really, really well. Rake up any leaves that have fallen from your fruit trees that are around the base, because those will harbor the spores as well. And then you can also do it again in the winter time as they are setting buds, but the buds have not broken yet. So this is the key. So because I'm in zone 9B and we're having a very warm winter so far with not a whole lot of rain, which is not a good thing. But that means these trees are getting really close to bud break, which is a little too early for them. But I want to make sure I catch these guys at the right time. So you want to keep an eye on your trees in late winter when they have buds, but they haven't broken yet. That's the time to spray. And again, you want to make sure it's a dry day, not a windy day. So I'm going to tackle every tree, every fruit tree. I don't have any peaches. They don't really do well here. I do have a 5-in-1 plum. I have a Santa Rosa plum. I've got 2 or 3 nectarines. I've got a bunch of apple trees and a pear tree, and a pomegranate, which is behind me, which generally doesn't get those kinds of fungal diseases, but an ounce of prevention. Once I get ready to prune back, once I prune back all the blackberries, they will get an application as well, but they are much later fruiting. And so I can wait a bit on those. The fungal infection on the blackberries wasn't noticeable until the fruit came out and it was shriveled. The drupes weren't big and full of juice like they are supposed to be. So I got a much smaller harvest. It still produced fruit, but they weren't grapefruit and you didn't really want to eat them. So the chickens enjoyed them. And then the garlic, I'm also going to spray the garlic. Now, one of the things that I always do in my garden is crop rotation. And there's a reason for that. It is to avoid this kind of thing. So it has been working pretty well. But last spring, It was not very cold for stretches and very damp. And so that high humidity and warmer temperatures allowed for fungal disease just to take over. And so in the places where I grew potatoes, which are root crop, those fungal diseases will go down into the soil. And where I grew the garlic, which is in a different bed, I have planted cover crops of mustard. That mustard, it's looking beautiful, and us and the chickens are enjoying it, but that mustard, as it gets bigger, when I'm ready to plant, we will chop that up into tiny pieces and turn it into the soil. That mustard is a biofumigant, and it will also work to kill off fungal spores. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm going to plant potatoes in the same place that I did last year. I am not. I'm going to move them to a different location that did not have potatoes and did not have any fungal disease. So sometimes this can be challenging if you have a smaller garden. Finding a place to put things, if you're trying to rotate, you only have so much space. So, be as creative as you can, but you can biofumigate with mustards. They're very effective for that. And the copper fungicide as well. So I am going to spray all of my garlic, and I will spray it multiple times this year because garlic, once it has rust, it's really just a waiting game. You're trying to keep up with it, but I'd like to prevent it from getting rust to begin with. So, all right, that's it for the talk. Let's go see if we can tackle these fruit trees. One thing I wanted to say, I have a spray bottle here, but by far the more economical way to do this is to buy the concentrate, especially if you have more than a few trees to spray, and mix it up yourself. It's a lot cheaper that way. You can also get bottles like this with the hose attachment so that you can spray through this bottle to your orchard. Okay, so all the trees are sprayed. I did spray the garlic. Unfortunately, that didn't record because I didn't realize the battery was dead. But I think I'm going to do something. This is the earliest I've ever done it. Normally, I cut back all these beautiful perennials probably the end of February. I cut them about 6 to 8 inches above the ground, and then they come back this big every year. The reason I'm considering doing it super early, like today, this year, is because these trees, these fruit trees, have set buds and they're going to open soon. And with these all here, all of these fruit trees are in the shade. They will suffer. They need direct sun once the leaves come out so that they can really start putting on a lot of growth. So I think I'm going to go ahead and cut all this back. I mean, it's not really a problem. The only reason I leave it is that there are still some tubular flowers on this this salvia, and the bees on nice warm days like to come to them. But I have some in the backyard that they're going to as well. And also hummingbirds. So, there's still plenty of salvias in the backyard, and we will get visitors from the pollinators back there. But the buddleia is done. It's been done for a while. So I can go ahead and cut all this back. Like I said, super early this year, but I want to make sure that these fruit trees, because this past year, 2024, was the first year that we ever got apples. And I want them to produce again this year, so I want to give them every chance. Now, I did not spray the highest branches in this pear because those are all going to get cut back. I will prune these in a week or so, as long as there's going to be a couple dry days and no frosts or hard freezes. They all need to be pruned a little bit. So I've got some crossing branches in places. I need to take all those out. There's nothing dead or dying. Everything looks really good. But I do need to cut some things back. I did cut in the summer to kind of train some of the growth, cut it back a little bit, but then it put on more growth, as you would expect. So I do need to still prune these trees. So some of the places that I didn't spray are places that are going to get pruned back. Okay, I'm going to get started on this. I have my basket out here. I can fill it up. This will make a nice addition to the compost. Okay, I apologize in advance for the leaf blower back there. Nothing I can do about it. It's the neighbor's property. Okay, so I am very happy to have done that. Like, that feels really good. I mean, I love seeing it nice and full, but there's something about the reset that is super satisfying. So not only did I cut back the buddleia, and I said 6 to 8 inches, nowadays it's more like 2 feet because the tops are where the new buds come. The salvia got all cut back. And then I did not cut back this lavender because it's blooming. And with these warm days, the bees come out. And so I want them to have something. This is not a lot, but it's something. And then I have lots of milkweeds in here. So all of those got cut back. But the other great thing about doing this is I can see holes where I can put more plants. So we've got some spots here, there's a spot there, there's a spot up here, in between these guys right here, and then right there used to be, up until just now, a Spanish lavender, which did great for a number of years, but you know, they get woody after a while, and that was one that I never kept up on in terms of pruning. So pretty much the whole thing was like woody and dying, and there was only tips about this long. There's no point in keeping that. So we'll put something new there. It will be pollinator patch friendly. And because I have all those perennial seedlings in the greenhouse right now, a lot of them will probably end up coming to this patch, especially like the calendula and the rudbeckia, because those will bloom early season and all season. And so there'll be lots of stuff in here that's not just, because a lot of this stuff is either spring or fall. So it'll be nice to have stuff throughout the season. Now, I really can't wait to tackle this rose. It is just a beast. I mean, that's climbing roses for you. So this trellis is going to need massive support because it got knocked over, almost knocked over in a windstorm. I'm going to get rebar, drive it into the ground. I looked into getting a new trellis. First of all, they're very expensive. Secondly, I would really have to cut this thing back super far in order to start over. And I really don't want to do that. Even though climbing roses grow fast, it has taken a number of years for it to get to this point where it's giving us a really beautiful show every year. So that being said, all the climbing roses, these two and the 4 that are in the backyard, are all going to get major prunes this year. Last year I was pretty light on the pruning, but this year, especially the ones in the back, they need to be cut down. I think those guys I actually am going to kind of cut down almost to the ground and start over, mostly because the canes that are on them are now so thick that they're really hard to twist to get around those poles. And so, and the plants are healthy. So those guys will get a massive pruning. Now, I don't prune my roses until after the Super Bowl. I always remember that, the end of January. So it's too early at this point. But boy, am I looking forward to this because it is just crazy out of control. I need to cut back a lot and retrain it. Also take some of the weight off of this trellis because it's a nice trellis, but it's not technically a rose trellis. And I didn't know that when I bought it. I got it from Gardener Supply. It's just not as sturdy as a solid metal rose trellis. Because these tubes are hollow in this trellis. Okay, guys, I think that's going to be it for me today. I think tomorrow, hopefully, I've been saying this all week, I'll be able to get out to the farm and do all the getting rid of all the mums, pruning all that stuff back, and the little bit of weeding that needs to be done in those other beds. It'll be a little cooler tomorrow, but we are not looking at any rain, unfortunately, or even frost for the next 10 days, which is kind of weird and a little unnerving. I really hope that we get rain in February, and my biggest hope is that Southern California gets rain. This is, as you know, the fires that are going on down there, it's horrific. We have fires up here all the time. It's not that, I just want to say, it's not that there's not enough water. There's enough water. The problem was that they didn't get enough rain. They didn't get any rain. They haven't had any rain since, I think, April. And normally they get rain like us in November, December. So they've had no rain. And then the Santa Ana winds were exponentially stronger this year. And when you're talking 75 to 100 mile an hour winds, if you get a spark, that's it. And it's almost impossible for firefighters to battle that. And they can't do it from the air either because the wind is so bad and it's very mountainous there, just like here. So when we have massive fires in our hills, it's super dangerous for firefighters, and it's scary because they move super, super fast. Lots of people here in the North Bay and Northern California have been through devastating fires where entire towns were taken out, like Paradise, and then the Tubbs fire in 2017. So, we're familiar with it, but nowhere near used to it, and we don't want to be used to it. So if you have the ability to do so, please consider donating to one of the many organizations. I'll link a few below in Southern California that are helping with not only like rescue efforts for people and helping to pay, for supplies, etc., but also things like pets and livestock. A lot of times when you have seconds, literally, like all of a sudden the fire has shifted because of the winds, and now you have like 5 minutes to get out of your house. Most of us in California have go bags because we have earthquakes and fire. And so a lot of us already have prepared kits to take with us, but it's finding your pets and keeping an eye on them, especially cats who like to hide. So that sometimes means that people escape with just the clothes on their back and have to leave their pets behind, and it's pretty horrific. So if you feel moved and you can do it, please consider supporting one of the organizations that I'll list below in the comment and in the show notes. Thanks so much for hanging out with me, you guys. I hope you have a wonderful time in your garden, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.